Okay, I'm going to go over this slideshow just really quick so we can talk about some of the major components of your papers. Okay, so obviously you're going to have some kind of title page. You'll have an introduction, and this will contain your thesis statement, and the introduction as well will just introduce, as the name says. It will introduce your topic, and if there's some relevant background information that is important for the reader so they can understand what you're about to talk about, things like that. And then you will have a thesis statement at the end of that, and we'll talk more about developing a thesis statement, as that is the assignment that you're working on right now. And then you'll have body paragraphs following that sort of progress logically through the information you're using to present your case, if you will, or present the information, and I don't want to say prove your thesis because that's not how it works, but the information that leads the reader through to your conclusion as well. And then you'll have a conclusion, and this conclusion will often talk about what research would be next or what the future holds for the field, things like that. And then you'll have your references. And so the title is difficult, but it sets the tone for your entire paper, okay? So in a published article, this is one of the ways people find how to read your paper, or if they should read your paper. You know, I have my paper, maybe I'll share it with y'all, my thesis that I just wrote, or the title is boring, but it was just right for what I was, because I want people to search it out and find it when they want to know how to grow stuff hydroponically, or they want to know how to compare different hydroponic systems. But it should be brief. It says and catchy, and I think there's a question mark, and I think because catchy is relative to industry. You know, are people in your industry that are nerds about hydroponics excited, or are even they bored? So, but it needs to condense the core point of the paper, and it needs to catch the reader's attention. So the introduction is going to set the tone for the rest of the paper. So again, here we have some context that you need. Hook their interest by explaining why we need to know this topic. And then finally, you want to not be explaining everything there is to know about the topic. Again, you will be developing that through your thesis, and they only need to know enough to get hooked. So this is zoomed out apparently, but the introduction, notice it's up at the top of this funnel or this cone, and you're going to give backgrounds and talk about more and more specifically, okay? And each paragraph, each section is actually going to do this. You can see your paper starting in the introduction to the conclusion, or you can see your introduction paragraph doing this. But again, particularly in the introduction paragraph, you want to be broad here and come to something very specific, and that specific thing should be your thesis statement. All right, now that you've got into the body of the paragraph, now that we're talking here about why we should believe you with what you're putting forth in your thesis. And again, you must support your claim with evidence from literature. And this is your chance to show that we shouldn't reject your thesis, and you should have subsections that indicate main points of your thesis. Anytime you bring up some particularly interesting piece of information, one, obviously you're going to have some kind of citation there, and then you're going to want to dig in a little bit. And if there's any pieces inside your background, inside your body paragraphs that need background, you're going to want to get into those as well. Again, they need to be based on sources, and each section should stand alone to support the thesis. So I should be able to read your thesis and pick at least, maybe not a paragraph, but a string of them, a subsection of some kind, and go, oh, okay, all of this ties into that. And I could read just this and see how this supports your thesis. All right, you got a conclusion. You're going to want to recap your main points. Think about it when you're in an argument. And in conclusion, blah, 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 blah. You know, don't start it with an in conclusion, though, please. You can, but Generally, you're just going to bring us back, go through the key points, and double down on your thesis again and say, this is why it's accurate. And then you're going to want to talk about the future, what future research is, why what you've just stated is important to that industry, to humanity, to whomever. And your references can be in any format you like, just stick with the same format, please. And there is a guide to the thesis that we'll look at here in a minute that'll help, I think. So again, your in-text citations must match the reference section, and please keep them the same style. So if I'm looking at in-text citations, I should know this is either one or two different citations, and then if I go and see something totally different with references, that'll be something I'll ask you to change. Okay, we're going to talk about how to write a scientific paper. This hopefully got edited together so you didn't see me fussing around because I'm doing this by myself. Okay, so without communicating your science, none of your research really means anything, okay? So we've got these bullet points here, and they're categories. So there are research articles, there are review articles. Like I said, I wrote a paper on growing different things growing basil in different hydroponic systems, and there's also, I talked about different sizes of a certain type of media that a company wanted us to test, but essentially that was my own research. But there's review articles, which is kind of like what y'all are doing, where you're sort of taking a subject and pulling, but that's a little different. Yours is just a research paper based on existing research. Review articles do take, sometimes there's even original math in them. They'll take a lot of papers, and they'll do a statistical analysis of all the results. But you're also going to be doing grant proposals, summaries, posters, oral presentations, and then this school application here. You know, I had to write a big old paper to get into graduate school. Oftentimes jobs ask you to do something like that. So you will be writing a lot, and even if it's medical school, even if it's as a medical student, you need to be able to read existing literature, current literature. You need to know the mechanics of what goes into a paper so you can know what's good or bad. All this information is useful to you. Or if you're going to the sciences, medical schools, the sciences, if you're going to like get a biology master's degree or biotechnology or botany or chemistry or something like that, all of these things, any graduate school or job application. So it's a chance for you, this is important right here, it's a chance for you to communicate your findings, proposal or interest, but it is not a chance for you to say everything you know about a topic with purpose. Anytime you communicate in a scientific way, it should be concise and it should be to the point. Okay, so who's reading it? What do you want them to get out of it? And is English their first or only language? Okay, think about those things. And also think of, kind of part of this is who are they? Talk to your audience. You know, obviously industries have jargon, but if there's a word that you use that maybe you know, you've got to understand there may be people that are reading this that they need to explain. Okay? Okay. So again, clear, concise, and at the right level. Tailor your writing to the audience by scientists for scientists versus, like I said, are you just writing for a lay person? Again, sometimes you can't avoid jargon. You know, if you're using an abbreviation or if you're using an industry word that really explains something that isn't explained better another way, just define it. And have someone else read your paper, have your barber read your paper, have your brother read your paper, have everyone read your paper, so that you know that it's being clear, not just to you, but to other people. And I love this one. Don't necessarily copy what you see. Many scientific writers are also horrible. Quick story, during almost my last little bit of graduate school, had my advisor change because my old boss got a job in Virginia, and good for him. But then I had a new advisor. He's great, but I basically had to rewrite everything that I had written up until that point from the one professor's style into the other professor's style. Now, was one better than the other? I'm not going to say, but it doesn't matter. Don't just copy. Not everyone's great. Actually, I realized that the point of that story was not a good one. So I'll just know that there's what's that thing about cats? Anyway, there's a lot of different ways to do something, but there are right ways and wrong ways. There are rules. So, well, I bumped this and it's moving. Sorry, Paul. Okay, this iterative process. So you do something and you do it again and again and again, and it builds on itself. So you get some ideas, you select one to develop, you write a draft, you analyze, you revise, you edit, you proofread, you publish, and maybe through your research you got a new idea that you select one and develop, etc. So I like this too. The purpose of scientific writing is to inform, not to impress. ABC, accurate, brief, and clear. Be precise, don't be vague. Make words count. Okay, I will be deleting fluff. I will be marking through anything as I edit, and so will your peers. If it's totally unnecessary, I'll come down on that, because not like I'm mad at you or something, but it was good that people were very stern with me about my fluffy writing, because my writing was fluffy when I started graduate school. And please don't use jargon, unless you feel you must, and then please define it clearly. All right, let's talk about this research paper a little bit. These are your directions, and I'm going to read from it a little bit just to make sure that we're all on the same page here. I'm not going to read the purpose. You can read that. I've kind of gone over, but essentially the purpose is so that you can get experience articulating a scientific paper. So this final paper is going to be 2,000 to 2,500 pages. There's a rubric on Canvas that clearly states, I just take that rubric and I go through the paper at the very end. Okay, that's all I do. And so I'm going to be, that is the standard to which I'm holding you. If it's a topic that's not in that rubric, I'm not going to ding you for it. Again, this is an English class. But please, Arial font 12, 1.5 space, 1-inch margins. Also, if you turn anything in this class, it needs to be docx, PDF, JPG, some sort of readily openable format. If it's not, I'll give you one warning. I just have had so many issues with this. It just needs to be in a format I can open, where at the very end of the semester, I'm going through 1,000 emails to make sure I have everything graded that they turned in. So if you've got a question about format, ask me. If you're not sure about your format, send it in early. Any of those kinds of things. So thank you. So you must cite your sources. You must have at least 10 citations, 3 primary, 2 review articles, and 5 other sources. You'll be doing an assignment where you develop some of these resources. In-text citations. So Wikipedia, WebMD, other medical websites are not acceptable. That said, at least Wikipedia and probably some of these others, what they do for you is a lot of those have references at the bottom, and then you can open those. So if you're digging in and you want to read a few Wikipedia articles, make that productive by looking at the references and reading those primary source papers, okay? And you can go to put them into Google Scholar, and maybe you can't get it through a paywall. Well, you can see through Google Scholar all the places online that might be available, and some of them are free. If you have any questions about finding a paper, or you can't get access to a paper, reach out and I will do my best to help you. Reference managers such as Zotero is a great resource. I didn't use this, and I should have. I keep bumping this and now it's shaking, so apologies. So I'm going to roll down here. So you'll be choosing a biology topic, and your thesis statement will be approved. I've approved your topics. I did give some feedback. Please make sure you look at that. So again, you're going to have a title page. There's some specific data, introduction, This is the guideline, okay? So please look at this document. It's also just on Canvas, as not as a docx or as a docx. So if you have trouble reading this or something, let me know. Okay, this is the thesis statements document from UVU. This is also linked in Canvas, all right? And I just want to show you what this looks like. I'm not even going to read through it because this is going to help you understand how to open up and develop a thesis statement. And also, I'm going to be using resources like this to judge you by. I mean, yes, I'll just be reading it and saying this is or it isn't, but this is how I learned, okay? Is utilizing research topics or research tools like this. There's this one. I'm going to reach over here. There's this from the Writing Center at UW-Madison. We've got developing a thesis statement, and it goes through. I love this part. I'm going to read it to you now just to get you guys started. A thesis statement makes an argumentative assertion about a topic. It states the conclusion that you have reached about your topic. It makes a promise to the reader about the scope, purpose, and direction of your paper. It is focused and specific enough to be proven within the boundaries of your paper. It is generally located near the introduction, but this last one, it identifies the relationship between the pieces of evidence that you're using to support your argument, okay? So you will have a thesis statement, and it will have these things in it. You will use some of the tools. Here's another one. IU, Bloomington, great school. Here we go. This right here, this writing tutorial services, how to write a thesis statement. This is, if you just follow these instructions, take your topic and what you want us to talk about and use this, you're all going to have a great time, okay? And you're all going to go through this process so that when you peer review one another's thesis statements, you'll be able to use these tools as well to evaluate your peers' thesis statements. Finally, I believe this one is from Harvard. This Harvard one as well goes through developing a thesis statement. So that's it for this week, but if you've got any questions, if you have any problems, if you're just bound up on developing a thesis statement, two things. One, this one's a rough draft. So you might get a bunch of peer reviews and reviews from me that give you lots of encouragements and a way to change it, but you're going to get full credit for having done it. So please just turn something in on time. In general with this class, as long as you're meeting the milestones and you're working towards creating a paper, I'm going to give you as many opportunities as possible to make revisions on the paper, make revisions on the assignment, as long as you're turning those in on time, as long as you're turning something, okay? As much as you could do. I want you to succeed more than I want to see you jump through all these hoops. These hoops are only in place because they're going to lead to your success. Okay, I think that's it, but if I've missed something or you have a question, hit me an email or contact me at Canvas.